Hey, how's it going? I wanted to post this video to talk about a friend of mine named Meredith. I first met her about a year ago. At the time, she was homeless and she was camped out in front of our district court, the Honolulu District Court on Alakea Street, which is located in the downtown area of the city. And she'd been homeless for about 10 years. The story goes that she got divorced. Actually, her husband left her, according to the story, and that she had no means of supporting herself, so she packed up everything she had in the world that she could into some suitcases and assorted bags and put them all onto carts, and she began to live out on the streets. And before she settled down into her more or less permanent spot in front of the courthouse, she would set up her things in a sort of like a semicircle around herself. She would sit in a chair, sometimes with an umbrella overhead, and she would just sit out on the sidewalk. She wouldn't panhandle from people, but sometimes people would give her money to buy coffee or soda, newspaper, that sort of thing. She was a very lucid person. She wasn't, rambling, talking to herself. She wasn't dirty. She would have friends watch her things for a little while she went to the YWCA and bathed. She seemed to be very articulate. She was just someone who, while she was in public assistance, simply didn't have enough money where she could rent a place for herself to live. So for about 10 years, she was living on the streets. So she would have her stuff around her sitting in the midst of it until the police or security or something like that would tell her to move. And she eventually got herself camped in front of the district court. And so the sheriffs, who were responsible for the security of the building, would tell her to move her things, and so she'd move them down the street. She'd have to move her things in stages, a few carts at a time, making like 4 or 5 trips to move everything. And at one point, I think she hurt her back, and the sheriff's deputies, according to what I understand, decided that as long as she didn't make a mess and bother people, they would let her camp out in front of the courthouse. And she was, very good about keeping her area clean. And as I said, she never bothered anyone. And I first made her acquaintance when I was cleaning out some old stuff of mine, and occasionally I would find hats out on the street or on the sidewalk that someone had lost, and I would take them home and I would wash them, and I would, leave them out someplace where I thought some person would just pick it up and want to get themselves a free hat, and usually homeless people. And I had these hats, just several of them. I don't even know how many there were, that I took to her. This is the first time she and I had spoken. I had seen her, on a daily basis, and she would see me, so she was more or less used to my presence. I asked her, well, do you want these hats? Because, they're all clean and everything. And she said, no, I don't need any hats, but you can leave them over there. And I'm certain that someone will come along, and if they want them, they'll take them. And so I did. And over time, we would talk a little bit more, and we became friendly. And once in a while, she would ask me to do her a favor, and she would give me some money to go to the store and buy her a bottle of Mountain Dew. And I would do that. would give her back her change. And there was also an old suitcase of mine, an old backpack that I have not used in years. And I thought that since some of her bags were beginning to fall apart, that she could use it more than I could. So I gave her my old suitcase. And, I got into the habit of saying hi to her, and she would say hi to me. And, we were very friendly with each other. And one day she told me that some friends of hers had a house or a condo or something, and they were going to go to the mainland. But they were willing to let her move in and live there, rent free, because they liked her and they understood her situation. And she was so happy. She'd been out on the street for 10 years or more. And a few years ago, we had, in November of 2005, about a month and a half of solid rain 24 hours a day for about 40, 45 days. And she was out there in it. Her only shelter was either a nearby bus stop or an umbrella that she kept with her. So after 10 years of that, she was finally going to have a place out of the rain, out of the cold, out of the dark, for the first time in 10 years. And so she, went through her things again, got rid of some things that she wasn't going to be able to take with her, and she put the things she was going to keep into the old suitcase I gave her. So it was rather coincidental and very fortunate that I actually gave her that suitcase. And I remember talking to her the day before she finally was getting ready to move into the place. She was so happy. She was glowing with happiness. She was like, finally. And then one day she wasn't there anymore. She had gone and moved into this house that some friends were letting her stay there, rent-free. And, I missed her. Like a week or so later, though, I actually was at that same bus stop. I was walking into the courthouse, and there she was. Not with her stuff, but just ordinary clothes, carrying a backpack. The backpack I gave her. And I asked her how she was doing, and she said, "Oh, I'm doing fantastic." But she just wanted to come back and see the place. She said, "I want to see the old place one more time. I want to see how it's doing." Like you visit the house that you live in for years, and you miss it when you move into the new place. And I saw her a couple times after that, but then I hadn't seen her in a really long time. And then I found out a few days ago that she had died. And that she had cancer. Now, I noticed in the last month or so that she was out on the street, that she was looking like she was losing weight. She seemed tired. I thought it was just basically because she was out on the street, and the weather was actually kind of bad, and she was stressing out about an upcoming potential eviction, police clearing the streets for the upcoming APEC conference. But that didn't happen to her. So she worried about that. It turned out that Meredith had cancer. And there was a memorial service for her. Some friends had it at the state capitol. I didn't find out about it until the day after. Uh, and it really seemed, it really seems really unfair, uh, in a sense that she had to endure so much for so long. I don't know for sure what the circumstances were that led her to living out in the street, because all I know is what other people told me. And then when she finally has what she's wanted for so long, a place of her own, she dies a few months later. And she wasn't a bad person. She wasn't abusive. She wasn't angry at the world. She didn't curse the system. She just accepted that as her lot in life. And she hoped for the best. She was nice to everyone that was nice to her. She was tough. And she was my friend. She wasn't famous or anything like that. And she didn't have a Twitter account or a Facebook page or a YouTube channel. But there are an awful lot of people who knew her. They were shocked and saddened by her death and will miss her very much. And one thing that we are grateful for, all of us, is that at the very least, she didn't die out there on the street. She died at home. So, this is my video memorial to my friend Meredith. And may she rest in peace.